All right, so tonight's call is all about helping gymnasts with a wide ribcage angle. My name is Gina Paulus, and I am a pregnancy and postpartum exercise corrective specialist, as well as an adult gymnast. And for what I just mentioned earlier, I will repeat as far as the muting stuff. So I would prefer that you guys hold questions until the end, just so that we can efficiently move through the workout portion, but I'm more than happy to hold questions and to them at the very end of the call. You'll want to raise your hand virtually, letting me know that you have a question so that I can ask you to unmute yourself. And also, let's see here, equipment list. So we want to have, if we can, access to a wall where you'll be putting your feet up against that wall. The other great thing to have is a hand towel, a yoga block, as well as a foam roller. So if you can take a moment and grab those items, I think that would be a little bit more efficient for you so that you can jump into the workout portion without having to leave the call. So I will go through why ribcage angle matters for gymnasts. One of the first things that you need to know is that some of us are going to draw in our abs a lot for a variety of reasons. One, it might make our stomach flatter. It might make us feel like our skills are tighter. Maybe it makes us look better in a leotard. Whatever your reasoning is for this, we want to avoid drawing our belly in, and I'll explain why in a moment. But let me just show you what I'm talking about. So if we're here and then we're thinking about pulling in like that, that is actually not a super healthy way to pull in your stomach when you're just kind of cinching it from the middle. And the reason that isn't so good for us is because it preferentially uses our middle TA muscles or our middle abs, but it doesn't work as much the lower and the upper. And over time, it can cause some imbalances. I also wanted to mention I do have a scar on my stomach. And if you see that, you don't have to be alarmed. I'm all healed, but I did have a significant abdominal injury that left me to have that scar. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that because I'll be showing my belly during this call. So I talked about how drawing in our belly isn't so great. All right. The other reason why drawing in our belly can cause problems is it actually puts a lot of pressure down on our pelvic floor. So you see, if we're pulling our belly in this way, what's going to happen is that pressure has to go somewhere, and it's oftentimes going to go down. I know a lot of gymnasts struggle with leaking during skills or even during daily life. Now, this can be something that we end up living with and not really being able to fix. But my argument is going to be, if we're creating more pressure down and we're making the problem worse instead of better, then that's no good. And we don't really want to set up patterns in our body that cause that type of pressure. Worst case scenario, it can even lead to something called pelvic organ prolapse, or POP, where our pelvic organs can actually descend lower than they're designed to be in our body. And that can cause a bunch of other symptoms and discomfort and all types of stuff. So I would rather that you guys learn how to really work on your ribs without pulling in the belly in order to avoid all of that. So we are going to test our ribcage angle together. And for that, it is nice to have, if you have two pencils or pens, it can be more convenient. But if you don't, you can use your hands. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my, my pencils here. All right, so I seem to be missing one of my pencils, but that's okay. I will do it with my hands, but if you had pencils, you will do one alongside the bottom of one rib and then one alongside the bottom of the other. The pencils are kind of cool because you can see the angle pretty easily. But if you don't have the two, like I apparently don't right now, you can use your hands and you can do it that way. So what we're trying to do is trace the base of our ribs, and we're trying to see how big that angle is. And furthermore, you can actually look down and see, is your left one a different angle than your right? And what we call this angle is a flare. So this would be a big rib flare, and this would be actually a smaller rib cage than really is desired, because having a too small one can cause other problems. I'm going to assume on this call, most people are either going to be normal, which is 90, or bigger, because almost every gymnast I've ever met has that. So I obviously have to go with what most people are because this is a group call. But you'll want to make note of that. And you'll also want to make note of if your left or your right is bigger. It's more common for the left angle to be larger. And that's primarily due to the fact that our organs are placed in our abdomen in different patterns. So we've got, liver on one side, a stomach on the other. They're all in different positions. And because of that imbalance, we're going to have some natural imbalances in our body. The key is that we don't want to let them get too far out of line, because if they do, then we can, let's set ourselves up for things like back pain, things like having a stitch in your diaphragm, which usually is on the left side. So things like that we would want to avoid if we can. So the other thing you want to keep in mind with all this rib cage stuff is it doesn't just affect down here. So if your ribs are flared here, chances are they're flared everywhere. This whole area is going to be flared. So I know for myself, when I had a couple of abdominal surgeries, my ribs ended up way bigger than they had been before the surgeries. And for me, it was, you could somewhat compare it to having a C-section in that I had, well, after my surgeries, I had 6 weeks of basically no exercise. I had a huge scar. It actually got infected and they had to open it back up. So long story short, I had this injury to my abdomen and my bras started feeling really tight. And I'm talking the band part. But I hadn't gained any weight, so it was kind of confusing to me. And now I understand why. My ribs got bigger, and even though I hadn't gained weight, it affected how my bras fit. So if you've noticed that on yourself, that's another sign that your rib cage is a little bit wider than we would want, and that these exercises we're going to go through in a few seconds here are going to help you out. So we are going to work on the exercises next. I'm going to introduce the circuits in 2 different sets of 3 so that it's easy to digest and to learn. If you want me to critique your form, you may leave your camera on, and if you'd rather have the privacy, feel free to leave it off. But I'm more than happy to watch you guys and be able to give you some pointers as we go through this. So for the first 3 moves, I will be showing you the move. You can follow along just watching me, or you can go ahead and start trying it. But then we're going to run through them twice more for 30 seconds. So plenty of time to practice them. First round, I'll do them with you so that you can continue to watch me. In the second round, I will just purely watch so that I can provide any tips. If anybody is wanting me to watch them, I will take the time to do that right then and there. All right, so the first 3 moves, the first one is called Sideline Rib Mobility. And that is kind of a mouthful, but it'll make more sense when I start showing. So for sideline rib mobility, I do like a hand towel. So you see I've got one here that's rolled up. This is a great size item. You can find another thing like a sweatshirt or something like that if you don't have that available. But this is going to go right underneath your side, okay? So we're going to lie on the side here. And you can rest your head on something like a foam roller or a yoga block or some pillows if you're more comfy that way. And then what you're going to do is place your hands on your ribs here, okay? So I'm allowing this towel roll to hold up my side. I'm going to take an inhale breath. And as I exhale, I'm going to gently guide my hand so that my rib is closing. The hand isn't really pushing much. It's more just giving you that feedback of where you want it to go. So once you've gotten it down, you want to take another inhale breath. And then you're going to exhale and push some more. And so you're trying to maintain the ground that you've gained each time you exhale. So that's the exercise, but obviously do it on both sides. The second movement is one called Paw Breathing. For Paw Breathing, you can either sit in a comfy chair or you can sit on your heels like this. Okay, so for Paw Breathing, what we want to do, first things first, this is going to feel kind of funny, but you want to let your belly completely hang out. And the reason we want to do that is we want to relax the muscles in our abdomen and instead work the muscles more between our ribs called our intercostals. So I'll show you from the side to really, like, not that you're pushing it, but just allow it to relax. All right, so here we are with the relaxed belly. We're going to place the hands on the side of the abs so that you can feel what's going on. So right on the side of your rib cage, okay? So we're gonna take a nice big inhale breath. And as you exhale, I want you to do a throaty ha. And as you do that, you're going to gently start bowing forward a bit. All right. You're going to maintain that position as you breathe in again. Exhale, ha. Try to go so long that you almost start to cough. Hold it. And then breathe in again. As you're doing it, you want to reach up through your lumbar spine or your lower back so that you're not really totally slumped. You're thinking pull up from the back, round in the front. So that one's called Paw Breathing. And then the third one that we'll work on is an exercise called a Rib Smash. So for Rib Smash, you'll be lying on your side. You're going to lie upon a yoga block. Now it's going to go right underneath the side of your ribs. All right, so you're going to be on your side like that. So it's under my ribs. It's kind of squishing my ribs. My knees are together. And actually, I'm not going to use this for my head. I'm going to put this between my legs. So it is best if you have something for your head as well. I'm just going to take my foam roller and put that there for now. But on the next round, I'll be sure to grab my yoga block because that's a little bit more comfy. So your top arm is straight. You'll breathe in here. And as you breathe out, you want to feel your ribs melting over the yoga block. You're also going to reach your top leg forward. Maybe a half of an inch. It's not much. Hold where you are. Breathe in again. Breathe out and reach. And again, breathing in. Breathing out and reaching. All right, so that's our rib smash. And what that's doing for us is it's literally closing our ribs from the sides. Now, if you have pain or discomfort while you're doing rib smash, then you can get a softer item than a yoga block, such as a towel roll or pajama bottoms that are rolled up, just something that's a little bit gentler for you. Most people don't have trouble with it, but if you do feel pain in your ribs, by all means, find something a little bit gentler for yourself. All right, so we are going to get started with our circuit. We're going to do 30 seconds of each. So for the first part here, we'll do the sideline rib mobility. So you can go ahead and lie on your side. All right, and we've got the towel roll underneath our side here. We're going to start the time now. You're going to breathe in. And as you breathe out, you're gently bringing your rib in. Hold where you are. Breathe in again. As you breathe in, try not to let your hand move. And breathe out. And feeling that rib move in. And breathe in again. Breathe out. Move that rib. Try 2 more. Breathing in. And breathing out. As you're breathing into this last one, really feel how you have to send the breath to your back in order to get the air that you need. Go ahead. Try to minimize how much our rib moves when we breathe in. Always holding that last one. And we can switch it up and try the other side. Okay, so head on an object always feels good. Knees are up, hand is on that rib. All right, so breathing in, breathing out, feeling that rib come across, closing the gap, hold where you are and breathe in again. Breathe out, gently push it with your hands. And breathe in again. Really trying to send the air to your back. And breathe out. Holding the out breath. Breathe in again. And breathe out. And one more. Change the setting on here so that we have myself bigger. So it's easier to see. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So then the next one on the list will be the hard breathing. Okay. So for hard breathing, you'll have your hands right on your sides. You're feeling right at the bottom of the ribs here. Breathing in. And breathing out. Really making that throaty ha sound. Let your head bow forward, hold. Breathe out so much that you almost start to cough. Breathe in again, try not to let your hands move. That means that your halves go to your back. Breathe out. And breathe in again. And breathe out. Really feel how small your ribs have gotten. And last one. Holding. And rest. So you should feel pretty tired after that one because you've gotten a lot of air out. and you're struggling a bit to get your oxygen back. So that's what you want to go for when you're doing that one. Now we'll work on the rib smash. All right, so for this, we'll start whichever side you'd like. The block's going to go underneath. You want that under the base of the ribs. And the foam roller is optional. You can have it between your knees. I'll go ahead and do that right now. If you don't have one though, you can always do it this way and just slide your knees that way. All right, so then we'll have our top arm here. You can breathe in and breathe out, reaching through your fingertips or reaching with your top side knee. So your scapula come away from your body here. Breathe in again. Breathe out and reach. Now we don't want to see a lot of twisting with the torso. You want to keep your torso square to the side and just move through your shoulder blade. Breathe in again. And breathe out and reach. Stretch that knee. Okay, let's do last one on this side, breathing in. Breathing out and reaching that knee, whether or not you've got the roller there, letting your body melt over the yoga block. All right, we can switch sides. I'm gonna grab an extra block for my head. All right, so on the other side, roller have it, will be draped right over that block. And your head can rest right on there. Okay, and so for this, it is optional whether or not you want to add that top arm reach. So if you're feeling like you're getting a good rib mobility without it, you don't necessarily need it. It can be helpful for getting your scapula a little bit more flexible. So it's up to you if you want to do that. All right, so let's breathe in. And as you breathe out, you're going to stretch that knee forward. Let yourself melt over the yoga block. And breathe in again. Breathe out, knee forward, melting over the yoga block. Breathe into your back and sides. Breathe out, melting over that block. And last one, breathing in. And breathing out. Great. So you might notice now that your back has started to loosen up a bit. You might not, but I do find that a lot of people respond pretty quick to these exercises. So we are going to go through this one more time. And like I said, I'm more than happy to watch anybody who wants to turn their camera on. So I will proceed into second round here, and we'll do the sideline rib mobility first. And so for that, you'll lie right on your side. You'll have the towel underneath your side. Knees are bent. Okay, and we're going to breathe in. As we breathe out, we're gently guiding our rib cage down. Okay, and trying to hold that as we breathe in again. Breathe out, gently guide down. Great. And breathe in again. And gently pressing those ribs down and in toward the midline. And then last one. Great. We can switch sides. So you'll be lying on the other side here. Your head is resting on that block. Towel will run underneath your side. Try to show you guys what's going on with my ribs too. So breathing in. And as I breathe out, I'm trying to guide that rib down on this top here. Holding that as best as I can as I breathe in again. And breathing out. And again, breathing in. Right into your back and sides. You want to be a little bit rounded more toward the fetal position with your spine here. And then breathing out. Holding. Last one, breathe in. And breathe out. And hold. Really good. And now we'll try a paw breathing. Show you from the side this time. So hands right on the sides. First, start by letting your belly hang out. Okay. Now we're going to breathe in. And as we exhale, we're feeling our ribs come in a bit, allowing our body to gently roll forward from the head. Feeling a little bit of stretch up from your lower back as you breathe in again. And breathe out. Really making that throaty, hot sound. And breathe in again. Breathe out. One more, breathing in. And breathing out. All right, so at the end of those 4 breaths, you would want to feel that your ribs have gotten closer to each other by the end. And now we'll do rib smash. Okay, so onto your side. Okay, so you're not locked underneath the ribs. Your roller, if you have it, between your legs. Legs are bent 90 degrees. You can try the arm reach, so breathing in. Breathing out, squeezing the roller just ever so slightly as you're sliding that top knee forward and reaching through the scapula. Hold. Breathe in. Breathe out. Reach. Let your leg move forward. Hold. And breathe in again. Breathe out, melt over the block. Stretching that leg forward, reaching through the scapula. And then last one. Breathing in. Breathing out as you reach through the scapula. Sliding that knee forward even a little bit more. All right, and you can switch. So second side, right onto your side.
Can I ask you a question really quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so you said sliding the knee. So is the knee rolling on the roller?
Let me actually show you too. I can change the view, and you'll be able to see a little bit better this way.
Okay.
Is that your only question?
I'm sorry?
Was that your only question about this one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think this view will probably be helpful. Thanks for reminding me about switching up my views too.
Sure.
Yeah, so here we are. Crotch shot. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, but thank you.
So I'll go ahead and take my breath in.
Okay.
Breathe out. You'll see my knee kind of creep forward.
Yes. Okay.
So it's subtle. It's not a huge movement.
Right. Okay, that makes so much sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. I'm gonna hold that while you breathe in again here. And then do it again, so with my knee. So I'm trying to keep my pelvis relatively upright, but I'm stretching through my hip just a bit. So we don't want to kind of like flop over excessively. We're still remaining fairly stacked on this. So let's all do 2 more breaths. Breathing in. Breathing out, we're reaching. And then last one. Good. All right, so then we're going to jump into our next 3 exercises. And if anybody has questions about those first 3, now would be a fine time to ask. This is a small group, so it's not terrible to have questions during the call.
Okay. Are there any other materials I should get for these next exercises? Because it took me a minute to grab a block and all of that.
Yeah, so the equipment is all the same. So it's just the wall, hand towel, the yoga block, and the roller.
Okay.
You should be good.
Thank you.
There is a bonus one I'm thinking about doing at the end, which will involve ideally a couch or a chair.
Got it.
But that is more of like a bonus one. We're gonna see how we're doing with time. All right, so then the next three movements, we have one called 90-90 breathing that's next up. And I think I'll move this camera so that we're closer to this. All right, so for 90-90 breathing, you can take your hand towel and you can roll it so that it's a little bit of a pillow for your head. That just helps encourage our back to round during this exercise. And we can have a roller or a yoga block between your knees. Either one will work. I will show you guys with the yoga block. And I did show this on the last diastasis call. If you are interested in getting a recording of that one, which is more a general diastasis recti healing circuit, you can drop your email into the chat and I'll be sure to get that over to you after the call tonight. So you can place your head on this towel, or you can even use a pillow under your head if you'd like a little bit more support with just helping your back round. So then we have the option of a narrow yoga block or a medium way. I find most people do best with the medium when they're new to the exercise. So here, what we're going to do is take a nice inhale breath. And as we exhale, we're going to draw our ribs together similar to the sideline ab one that we did. You'll see that my feet are wider than my knees. And I'm going to hold this. The trick to it is holding it as long as you can before you need more air, because the holding is really what's going to help bring our ribs in. You can take an inhale breath whenever you need it. Try not to lose the ground you've gained though in those ribs, and you can exhale, drawing the ribs together. All right, so that's the 90-90 one. And then we have an overhead breathing movement. For this one, I am going to just show you guys with one arm because I am battling with a torn rotator cuff right now, which is not something I would recommend anybody get because it's really not very fun. But I'll show you with my one arm that I can do it with. So you're going to be on your back. And like I said, you'll have both arms overhead if you could do that. It does work well doing one arm at a time too, but if you can do both arms, I would recommend that. And what you're going to do is you can kind of see how my ribs are popping out here a bit, which is mainly because I haven't done as much of this work lately with my injury. We're going to breathe in. As we breathe out, I'm trying to flatten my back here and I'm stretching long through my hand, really stretching and reaching through my pinky. And you even can use your hamstrings a little bit underneath your thighs. You want to engage your heels back and almost pull them back so that you can feel those hamstrings kind of grounding your back. And that's going to really flatten those ribs for you. And this is a good move to help not only with overhead range of motion, but also with people that have a flared rib cage where their posture is more like, if they're in their handstand, especially more like an arch this way. So that would be like your ribs are translated forward. And if you want to be able to keep them nice and flat while you're in your handstand, you would want to work on an exercise like this. So that's a great one. It feels really nice at the end of a long work day or at the end of a practice or even as a warm-up during practice. And then we're going to do one called finding TAs. So your TAs are muscles that help support your abs like a corset. And when they're not as strong, what ends up happening is our upper abs end up having to do more, and that can result in rib flare. So to work on the TAs, I actually do like using a roller or a yoga block. I find that it helps a little bit with the adductor of the end thigh squeezing. So for on our back here, we're going to place our hands right on the inside of our what's called ASIS, which are hip bones, the front of our hip bones. We're going to place our hands right inside there so we can feel. So you're going to take an inhale breath. And as you exhale, I want you to draw your pelvic floor up, like you're pulling everything up like it's an elevator. You're going to draw up, and I want you to feel if you have any tension underneath your hands. If you do have tension under your hands, that's good. But it shouldn't be a ton. It should be pretty subtle. A little bit of tension is what we're going for. And you can imagine that your hip bones are drawing closer together. So what we're working on here is a TA brace. Now, if we were to brace all of our abs and squeeze like we're trying to make six-pack muscles pop out, we're using all of the ab muscles. And I find that most gymnasts are weaker in their TAs or their corset muscles. And actually, not that you're too strong in your rectus or your six-pack muscles, but you're out of balance. And when we're out of balance, that sets us up for pelvic floor problems, diastasis recti, as well as back pain. So for this, we're really trying to call out the TAs and help them come in. So once again, inhaling, exhale, hip bones draw together, and you're going to feel that, hopefully, that little bit of tension under your hands. All right, so that was the last one of this grouping. So I'll show you from the back, I think, because I've already showed side. So I'll try showing 90-90 from the back for the first round. And we'll go from there. So we're gonna do about 30 seconds of this. Okay, and so something to rest your head on to help encourage the rounding. Okay. And then we're going to squeeze our block. Feet are wide. So you're going to inhale. Exhale, squeezing the block, feeling your ribs knit together. Hold it. Challenge yourself to see how long you can hold this contraction. Holding that, we're going to breathe in again. As we exhale, we're going to draw ribs together, but we're also going to squeeze the block and lightly drag down with the heels on the wall. You don't want to actually move your feet. You want to just create a little bit of traction to turn your hamstrings on. That's going to help further flatten your back during this move, and you're holding your out breath here. And let's do one more, breathing in and breathe out. Now your ribs are as close as they've been all of this set here. Squeezing with your legs. And relax. It should feel really good to relax after all that contraction. All right, so now we'll go into the overhead breathing. And as far as what your arms are on, it is a little bit individual. Most gymnasts can handle doing it on a foam roller. A lot of my general population people will find that they need to put their arms on the couch because their arms aren't as flexible. So do what you need to do. I just find that most gymnasts can handle the roller. And then the thing is, if you try it on the floor, that's an option. The only thing is, a lot of times, try it right now, I'm not able to quite get my ribs down when my arm is on the floor. So you want to do the version where you can get your ribs down the most. All right, so then we're a little bit wider as well. I'm almost in like a Y shape with my arm, and I'll show an overhead view on the next round. We're going to breathe in here. As we breathe out, you can engage hamstrings. We can stretch to your pinky, pressing into your roller, and hold that. And then breathe in again. Breathe out, stretch, and hold. Breathe in again, try not to lose any of the ground that you've gained. And breathe out and stretch. So for this one too, we're really emphasizing how we do with our arms overhead. There are some people that have great ribs when their arms are down. The second they go overhead, they lose it. So this is a great one to help work all of those shapes that we'll be using in gymnastics. All right, awesome. Now we'll go into the finding TA's move. You can try using a block or a roller between your knees. What it does for us is it helps with the inner thighs pulling in, which are connected with our TA muscles. So it can be a help to use the squeeze. Okay, so then hands are going to go right in the inside of the hip bones. You're going to breathe into your back and sides. And then breathe out, drawing the pelvic floor up a bit. Hopefully feeling that little bit of contraction. If you're not feeling the contraction at all, you can think about unweighting your feet. I don't want you to actually lift them into the air, but if you imagine taking a little bit of pressure off the feet, that might be what it takes for you to feel them really kick in. So you can try that out. Breathe in again. Breathe out. Pelvic floor engages by lifting up. Feeling those hip bones almost drawing together. Make sure that you relax your pelvic floor as you breathe in again. It's not a good habit to get into always clenching your pelvic floor and leaving it clenched all of the time. And exhale. And really feeling that area firm up. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we jump into the second round of that one?
I do actually. Okay, I couldn't quite tell, but is there a pelvic tilt with it, or is it just you're naturally flat and you're only
exercise?
Yeah.
So that one, I don't want you to specifically think about tilting your pelvis, but you're basically trying to let it be natural for you, which is going to look a little bit different for everybody. But I did say you could engage some hamstrings. So if you're engaging this, it's going to make it look like I've tilted my pelvis, but I'm not thinking tilt pelvis.
Okay. That makes sense.
With my legs and with my breath. Whereas if I just thought about tilting my pelvis, it would be, it's kind of hard to do it, I guess, with the hamstrings, but I wouldn't want you to do it without the hamstrings. And just like rock it back and forth.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to show this side for the 90-90 here. Last round of this. Going through it one more time. My feet are nice and wide. You want them as wide as you can have them without losing the parallel feet. So again, that'll look a little bit different for everybody too. Okay, so we're going to breathe in. And as you breathe out, feel your ribs coming in. And I want you to take a moment and check in and make sure that you're not doing something that we call gripping with your chest. So if you feel almost like you're making kind of like cleavage between your boobs, we don't want that. And the main reason we don't want that is we don't want your chest taking over for your ab and your rib muscles. So if you feel like you're doing that and you want to explore if that's going on, you can put one arm over your head. I usually like doing right arm because the right side is mostly what people will clench. So you can try that as we continue here, breathing in, breathing out, and it's probably a little bit harder to draw your ribs together if you do have that arm overhead. You can explore if that feels helpful or if it feels like it's too much for you to also get those ribs in with the arm like that. You can hold here and let's try one more, breathing in. Breathing out, pelvic floor drawing up, legs are squeezing and dragging down. Holding as long as we possibly can. And relax. All right, and I think I'll try to get an overhead view for this one. All right. So this can be done one arm at a time. It can be done probably best done with both arms. So you'll see that I'm a little bit more the view. This way, a little bit open versus straight over my head. So I'm open onto the side. I'm going to breathe in. And as I breathe out, reaching through my pinky. And that is bringing my ribs in nicely. I'll try to hold that as I breathe in again. And breathing out and reaching. The reason we're reaching through our pinky is it helps our shoulder blade to pull through. And that gives us more overhead range of motion. If you reach through just your thumb, you can even try it. It'll generally feel like it's kind of gets stuck. And it will also feel like you have more of tension in the front of your chest rather than nice stretch through your back. Reaching through the pinky is best. Breathing in. Breathing out and stretch. One more, breathing in. And I just have my hands on my ribs to just kind of feel what's going on when I'm doing the one arm. So you can play around with that as well and see if keeping an arm free to feel is helpful. All right, and then we'll do the TAs. Just spin this way. Okay, so for the TAs, we don't want to see something what we call rectus doming, where you would have the muscles kind of puff up. You don't want that. If anything, you want them to flatten. You don't want them to flatten though by sucking in. You want them to flatten because the TAs or the transverse abdominis muscles have been engaged. So we'll place hands here. I am going to remove them just so you guys can see better, but breathing in. And as you breathe out, you'll see that my stomach kind of sinks towards the ground just a little bit, and feeling it, it does feel firmer. My pelvic floor is up here. I'll breathe in and relax my pelvic floor. And exhale. All these exercises, by the way, are really good for helping close up a diastasis if you do have one. So it's not just for ribs. Breathe in again. And breathe out. And then last one, breathing in and breathing out. Awesome. All right, so I did mention I have one bonus one that I wanted to just tack on. We will just do that one once. We won't do like circuit with it or anything like that. But before we do that, does anybody have a question about those last three? Sounds like we're good. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to show you guys the bonus one. This one I hesitated to include just because it's a little bit more advanced, but I figured if people, you know, have done well with those first 6, it should be good to try it out. And it will be cool for anyone like that to be able to see it. So this one is a side plank where we're alternating between breathing into our back and exhaling and pulling our ribs in. So I do like doing it on an elevated surface. You don't have to have something exactly this height, but something higher than the ground is generally pretty good for this. You'll see that my top leg is forward of my bottom. Note to self, not wear black pants next time I do one of these calls. But all right, so I'm going to place my hand on my ribs here, and I want to breathe in as I'm holding this. This is a side plank. You want to be slightly angled towards the ground when you're doing it. Breathe in and try to fill your rib with air right where your hand is. As you breathe out, you want to pull that same side rib across. Hold that. Move your hand back to your back. Breathe in. And exhale. Feel that rib come down. And we're going back and forth one more time. Breathing into the back. And exhale. Okay. So that one's obviously a little bit more intense. You can vary the height of the item. You can do it on the floor if you're super fancy, but you just want to make sure that you're not holding your breath just to do the movement, because the whole point of it is to expand the ribs. So yes, I could do my side plank on the floor, but would I get the same rib expansion? I probably wouldn't. So you guys can switch sides and try the other side. Okay. So for the other side, you'll be on a hand. You can be in an elbow as well if that's more comfortable for you. Making sure that your belly button's angled a little bit more towards the ground is awesome. And let's place that one hand on the back ribs, and you can breathe into your hand and make sure that you expand that rib as best as you can. And then you're going to breathe out. Good. And breathing in again and holding that hand in the back so you can feel that expansion. And then breathing out and letting that rib knit in towards midline. And then breathing in again, we'll do 2 more, hand on the back. And then breathing out, feeling the ribs knit. And then last one, breathing into that hand on your back. And then breathing out, ribs knit. So that one, I would say I wouldn't recommend that unless the first 6 felt pretty cool to you and there wasn't any type of problem with it. And also that you're not newly postpartum, as in 6 weeks or sooner. As well, you'd want to have clearance from your doctor that you're able to do abdominal exercises, because those ones are, the last one's a little bit more on the exercise side of things and less on the corrective or the rehab side. All right, so that was your 7 moves for your rib cage angle. And I will tell you guys that when I started doing these exercises, my ribs they were probably like 140. They were pretty big. And now they've gotten to 90 degrees, which is the goal. So they definitely work. It doesn't take long. I would say doing the circuit 2 to 3 times a week for probably a month should get you guys in a pretty good place with it. And then you'll see this showing up too in your skill work, in your handstands, in your conditioning, all of that stuff. It should help. Even things like your lines when you're tumbling, so that you can block in your back handsprings with a nice straight body. And of course, things like tap swings and bars are going to be really great. And staying over the beam, because if our ribs are popping out, we're going to have a lot more trouble keeping our body over the apparatus. So does anybody have any questions about anything we've talked about in this call? Awesome. So what I wanted to mention is we are going to do another call next month, and it's going to cover a topic that a lot of people might not know about, but it's a really important topic, and that's having to do with our proximal hamstrings. So I'm going to grab my pelvis model and show you what I'm talking about with this. So here's our pelvis, okay? And if this is the back, right? The hamstrings are going to be back here. And then the top part of the hamstring is what we call the proximal. And the bottom part near our knee is what we call the distal. So a lot of gymnasts have problems because on their body, this part of their hamstring isn't as strong as this lower part. So that can lead to anything from back pain to knee pain to groin pulls. It can really be a lot. And so if we can teach our body how to activate that top part of the hamstring, we can really fortify it and we can help the area be stronger so that it can support our pelvis, which takes really a beating in this sport. So I think that'll be a really cool call for you guys. And I think something that will be worth your time. But it will be a little bit of a gear shift because we've been covering diastasis. So like I said, if you want any of the calls from earlier, this is the third diastasis call we've done because rib angle is very much correlated with diastasis. If you want those calls, drop your email in the chat and I'll be able to send them over to you. And I will have a date for you guys soon with the next call. I've also started archiving all the calls on a web page. It's honestly, I don't remember the URL, but if you go on homeexercisecoach.com and if you type in the word diastasis, you will see the page that has the calls on it. And that will be a great resource for you. And you'll also be able to see ways you can contact me if you wanted to schedule any one-on-ones to get some personalized help with some of your gymnastic oriented workout needs in terms of helping your body function at its best and feel the least pain that we can have in our sport. So I thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you guys can come on to the next call and work out with me next month. Thank you. Bye.